Greetings and welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. I'm Phyllis Hollis, your host. As an extension of my Instagram page, Cerebral Women, this podcast offers insights into the visual art world. I interview artists, mainly artists of color and female artists who will freely articulate what inspires their creativity. In addition, you'll hear interesting perspectives from dedicated art professionals who work with artists and the art institutions that feature them. I'm confident that collectively, these individuals will indeed stimulate your mind as they do our eyes. Please know these interviews are conducted in my Manhattan apartment, so please forgive the background sounds of city life. Welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. This episode features Bronx-born Kim Dacres, a first-generation American sculptor of Jamaican descent who lives in Harlem and practices her studio work in the Bronx. She primarily uses rubber from recycled tires to create sculptures celebrating the influential forces in her life, such as family, friends, artists, and musicians. Kim has had solo exhibitions in New York, Los Angeles, and Palm Beach, Florida, as well as group exhibitions internationally and within the United States. Exhibitions include Surrealism and Us, Caribbean and African Diasporic Artists Since 1940 at the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth, Texas, Black American Portraits at Spelman College Museum of Fine Art and the Lehman County Museum of Art, Bronx Calling Part I at the Bronx Museum as part of the esteemed AIM Artists in the Marketplace program. Kim has also exhibited in the Philippines and the Netherlands. She was the recipient of the Artadia New York Award Grant in 2022, and the Bronx recognizes its own BRIO grant in 2023. Her work is in numerous private and public collections, including the Beth DeWoody Collection, the LACMA Collection in Los Angeles, the ICA in Miami, the Nasher Museum at Duke University, and the International African American Museum in South Carolina. Please enjoy this episode featuring Kim Dacres and visit cerebralwomen.com for her expanded bio. Welcome, Kim, to my podcast. I am delighted to share with my audience you and your practice, the work you do. Let's start with, when did you discover your artistic passion?
This is a good question. I've always enjoyed working with my hands. My parents are both like hands-on people in terms of fixing things up around the house. My father's a repairman. So the practical things of like painting or like putting things together, how to assemble stuff, that's always been a part of me. But I would say I didn't discover my artistic passion truly until I went to undergrad at Williams. That's when I was able to first take my formal fine art classes in drawing and especially sculpture. So once I got to sculpture and welding and working with cardboard and carpentry, it just expanded this whole other world to me of skills and seeing things in spaces that I found so interesting. So definitely I would say around undergrad for sure.
How do you define your practice and share with us your process?
My practice is built around the use of the tire. For me, it's a material that chose me. It's a difficult material to work with. And I work with a variety of tires. I work with bicycle tires, auto tires, motorcycle tires, electric bike tires, the whole variety, scooter, all of them. And so I would say if one were to recognize my work, you would recognize it by the use of tires, use of rubber. And my practice is defined around that because the material speaks to me, it speaks to the experiences that we have every day that sometimes go unnoticed, especially as Black people. And like a lot of what's ingrained in you is defined by the places that you have been to. So I like to bring that aspect into my work. So what holds everything together is having a nice strong wooden post in the middle or a tightly coiled tire. And then there are layers and layers of tires onto that. So it starts to add on to like, all right, the wood might be like essentially your spine, but everything else that gets layered onto it are moving from like most dense to least dense to at the surface. So like auto motorcycle tires to bicycle tires, the detailed surface level that you see. It's like the muscle and the skin and everything's held together with screws. So it's a very labor intensive practice. And I would think that's another definition that could be added to it. It's like it's defined visually by the material, but the process is certainly labor intensive and has something that a cyclical nature. I have a routine every week. Tire Tuesdays, I go out into my favorite bicycle and auto shops in Harlem and I pick up the materials and I call them my boyfriends at the bicycle shop. They know who they are. I love them, but they save things for me. And that's what helped expose me to like different types of auto and also like bicycle materials, things that help moving forward, like the gears and the inner tube. So it allows for like different styles to come into play. So that regularity of every Tuesday, like I treat that like folks treat football Sundays. I treat Tuesday like I'm not missing this. This is the anchor. And if I have to go anywhere, I'm going to be back home by Monday because I need to hit Tire Tuesday. So my practice, to answer your question, certainly is defined by the use of the material and the regular pickup of the material and its influence on our daily lives to help us get places without necessarily receiving the acknowledgement of all the places that the material has been.
Interesting. Thank you. And share with us, what does your studio look and feel like?
Oh, I love this question. My studio, well, when you walk to the building and walk up the stairs, on the outside of my studio says principal's office. I was inspired by a neighbor who has pastor study on theirs. So I was like, oh, mine needs to say principal's office. And it's the sense that you're going to walk into a space that's organized, but also has like really clear rules. So my studio certainly feels like equal parts classroom, auto shop, with a touch of play in there also because I have other interests in there too. Like I'm an archer. So I have an archery set up in there. So equal parts like classroom, bicycle, auto shop, and whatever else might be happening there at the time.
Interesting.
You're definitely gonna learn something when you walk into my space. I think that's what it feels like, which is important to me.
And do you listen to music while you're working?
Man, yes. I always have to start off the day with a little bit of something when I get into the studio. It's going to be Stevie Wonder, or it's going to be Whitney Houston, or DeBarge, or Mariah, or Victoria Monet. It's got to be something, some music to help me start the day. It might be Parliament Funkadelic. It might be Bootsy Collins, but it's going to live in the soul aspect of it for sure. And then when I get bored of listening to music, I'll turn on audiobooks or podcasts, but I'm really attracted to listening to other people's stories, like their autobiographies or documentaries about people's lives. And that if I'm not listening to music, then that's something I'm listening to in the studio.
When do you know a sculpture is finished?
Picture day. I know the sculpture is finished when it's ready for picture day. And that means once it has a picture taken, front, right, left, verso, that's when I know that this piece is done. And that I can't go back and change anything. Because if I do, that means it's not that piece anymore. It's now another piece. So picture day, when I get those photos taken, that's when I know. Because I'm not a person who takes a lot of photographs of the process when I'm working, because I'm just like super focused. But once that end picture comes into play, I know it's done.
When does the title of a work enter the creative process?
I think they all start off with a nickname, typically. And the nickname is most likely inspired by the hairstyle of a person that I know or I admire. Once I have finished the skin layer and I have a strong sense of like what the head shape of the work is going to look like, it makes it easier to determine the hairstyle, and the hairstyle being inspired by the person. So, for example, I'm working on a piece inspired by someone named Deidre, and I've been calling it Dee Dee this entire time. So now I'm like, all right, Dee Dee, we got to get your hair together. And then your official name, once I put it in my spreadsheet, Deidre, and she will have her measurements, height, width, length, etc. And yeah, so the titles help humanize the work on the process too, because also if they fall or if something scratches me or if something happens in the studio, I'm like, oh no, Dee Dee. Or yes, Dee Dee, you look great. Yes, I love how you're coming together. Curls is popping. this is looking good. I'm excited for you. Let's finish up your base and then you'll be ready for picture day. So I talk to the works like as if they're, students in my classroom, things that I'm forming or shaping for sure.
And while you're working, do you think about your audience?
I think about the audience in the way of like, how do I need to display the work so that the audience doesn't do the things that I would hate for them to do. So for me, I think about the audience doesn't really enter my consciousness until I'm trying to determine the height of the work. Frequently, I have observed when folks are not aware that I am the artist or the artist is present, or if they think that people aren't paying attention, that people will lean on the work if it's at a certain height or, pull or touch on something. So the audience enters the work when it's time to determine like how tall should the plinth be, how tall should the base be, and what shape it should be. Because I know that I'm fighting folks' worst impulsiveness in the video. So that once I'm impressed, I'm like, everyone's going to be impressed, right? Like in terms of like, how did you do that? The form, the shape, the style, and think that's cool. But for me, it feels like a given because if I don't feel that, then the audience is not going to feel that either. But mostly they enter the work when I'm like thinking about, oh man, what kind of less than ideal behaviors might you encounter in this work? Might the work encounter?
Do you feel Black art can be defined?
No, because Black people we contain multitudes, depth and breadth that I think makes this world very special. I don't think it can be defined. I think it's one of those things where you know it when you see it, you know it when you feel it. The most recent example, I think, that's been trending, but watching the breakdancing finals, it's like you recognize there's something in there that's Black, but it's just, well, of course, somehow, some way, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is an art form of dance that started here, but somehow just went off the rails. And I think Black art, in terms of fine arts, I don't think it can be defined. I don't think it could be defined by materials. I don't think it can be defined by identity. It's something that you feel or you don't feel.
Share with us, what are you excited about right now?
Right now, I'm so excited about my 2-person booth with Melissa Joseph that we're going to be doing at Art Basel Miami with Charles Moffett Gallery. It's been a special way of just like collaborating with someone. I've done a previous collaboration with my friend April Bay. They're based in LA. So they were like some logistical things in terms of like timing and like being able to visit each other's studios. Like that requires a little bit more thoughtfulness. But the collaboration that I have right now going on that we're planning for with Melissa has felt very authentic in the way of being able to just like drop by each other's studios or share materials. Hey, I saved these tires for you. Do you want to come pick them up? Or like she saved a bunch of like colors of industrial felt for me. So I'm really excited to see the fruits of that collaboration come together in December in Miami. It's going to be really fun for sure.
I love that. What other passions do you have outside of the art world, and how do they influence your practice?
I love sports. Growing up, I've always enjoyed sports, playing basketball and softball. And then when I got to college, I started to play rugby. And throughout my education career, played rugby and coached, etc. So there's a physicality about my practice that mirrors those athletic settings as well, where it's about leveraging your body to lift or move the object to keep something in place. There's also a sense of teamwork that I think comes into my practice because you're never just making work in isolation. There's also a team that you have to consider, and the team might be folks at the gallery or people at the museum or PR folks that you have to speak with. It's just the difference is that you don't see your teammates as regularly as you would, say, you were playing together in a season. So definitely the physicality and the communication, like my love of sports, that translates that thing over into the work. Because you can see that it's a lot of physical labor, and sports is like physical labor, but fun. And that's what I like about my practice too. I think that's what attracts me to materials. That like, oh, I like this because it's difficult. It's tough. And you like difficult, tough players too.
Take it on. Have you ever thought about if you weren't a visual artist, what other career path you would have chosen?
I don't know, low-key been there, done that for lists, right? I used to work as a teacher and a middle school principal and a professor of education. That is working in schools, I think, is so special because you get to touch so many different parts of a community. It's the communities where the students are coming from, whether near or far. It's the community then where the school is in and the surrounding blocks and neighborhoods. It's the people who used to go there and the people who will go there. It's the nearby hospitals, the nearby precinct. All of those things happen or are in place. So I think if I weren't a visual artist, I'd probably be still working in schools, working as a school leader, something I enjoyed. It's very difficult work. And then if not for that, I think there's a pathway for coaching. There's a coaching rugby. There's a pathway for maybe being a lawyer because I do like to read and write. There's a pathway to so many different things, maybe to be a filmmaker. But I think in terms of what would probably fill my soul in a similar way, it would probably be working in schools and being around children. It keeps the person young, but also gives a lot of perspective and humility at the same time.
When you compare your careers as an artist, what would you say has been the most substantial challenge that you've encountered?
I would say that it would be loneliness. As an artist, you spend a lot of time in your head. You spend a lot of time in your studio and you're working to try to communicate a vision to yourself and also to the work that's in front of you. And then nobody can really tell you what it's going to look like. You're the only person who can tell you what it's going to look like. So I would say that part, because I was used to starting off my day with 300 people. And now I don't do that. I start off my day with myself and my dog. So I would say that's probably the hardest part because it requires a different kind of like mental fortitude and reassurance, self-assurance that what you're doing is the right thing for you and that it couldn't be any other way, right? Like this is something that you were meant to be doing and no one's forcing you to do it. You don't have a schedule. You set your own schedule. You determine how much you want to respond to it. You are your own boss and your own cheerleader and your own human resources and your own, accounts payable. You are all of those things. You are your transport. You are all the things. And you determine your schedule. You determine your vacation. You determine your break time. You determine all those things. And I think that's the hardest part of being an artist and also, quite frankly, an entrepreneur or business owner. It's just all on you. There are those other structures that you would have in another career, which I like because nobody gets to tell me what to do.
Yes. Dogs don't talk.
No, but there are times where I do feel like my dog is telling me what to do. Like she's like, all right, we're still at the studio. I gotta go, boo, outside. Or ma'am, you're still in bed. I know you hear me. I need to get up and I need to be fed. So instead of other folks telling me what to do, it's not students, it's not other teachers or fellow principals or superintendent, it's Winky.
that look, right?
That look.
So when you think back when you were working with humans in education, was there a particular, body of work, an artist? Is there someone or something you were really paying attention to back then before you even realized that you would be where you are now?
Oh, I've always been watching what Karen Walker's been doing. She was someone whose work I was introduced to in college. And I was just like, oh man, like this person's work is awesome. It's intriguing and controversial and awesome. I particularly liked the installation that she did at the Domino Sugar Factory, being a person of Jamaican descent and the presence of sugarcane on the island. And in my childhood, to see the sugar babies and to see that Black Sphinx structure and to see also how people reacted to it. It was well worth the 4-hour wait in line or however long it was in the 90-degree sun. It was I thought it was really beautiful. So watching what Karen Walker had been doing, I would say another person Willie Cole, I was watching what they were doing. I loved how they worked with found materials, particularly the shoe works that they have. And then other artists that I knew who I went to school with. I went to school with Pamela Council, and I've always just admired her perseverance in terms of her practice and just, wow, you're out there, you're doing it. This is cool. That might be something that I could do too.
It's great you have an open mind. What do you feel is the purpose of art?
I think the purpose of art is to inspire and inquire, right? And I think about art in reference to teaching and community. In a community, the purpose of leadership is to equip and inspire, right? And I think art is a leadership in its own capacity. And the purpose is to inspire people and force them to inquire why they are inspired and what is it about the work that speaks to them. I love that there's no right answer for the inquire or inspired. It's just what it is.
How do you keep learning?
I'm a huge nerd, so it's easy. Like I really enjoy documentaries. I enjoy books. And when I say documentaries, I mean quality documentaries. Like I'm a big fan of PBS and listening to podcasts. I like to do a deep dive on topics. So that's how I keep learning. Also, like when I get a chance to visit other artist studios, it's an opportunity for me to learn and to listen to how they talk about their work and their practice. Most recently, the opportunity to participate in the Surrealism and Us symposium that was organized by Maria Elena Ortiz at the Modern in Fort Worth, Texas, was a beautiful opportunity to like connect with curators, but also art historians, docents, other artists in the space where their work is, and to have these contextualized conversations that you know are going to be published at some point, but haven't been published yet. I always found that like listening to artists and curators contextualize the work is a great way to learn more about different people's practices and about new ideas.
This has been a great interview. I've enjoyed it very much. And this is our last question. And that is, in the world we live in, as an artist, what do you feel is your role?
Oh, this is a good question. And there are two kind of strains of answers that I'm thinking of. The first is that, yes, I'm an artist, but I'm an artist that also exists with other identities as a woman, as a masculine presented woman, as a child of immigrants, as a Black person, as a dark-skinned Black person of the diaspora. My role as an artist cannot exist without speaking to those identities. They're one and the same. And I feel a responsibility to speak to those communities that I'm a part of, the ones that have the overlap and intersect in various forms. The second thing is the role of an artist is to speak to a culture. And culture is music, it's sports, it's books, it's conversation, it's food, it's ways of coming together. So when you think about the kind of like 4 to 5 categories of identities on one side, the artist being in the middle, and then all the varieties of cultures that flow through that artist and flow back one to the other. Like the role of the artist is to really like inspire both sides and to inquire about why they speak to each other. How do food and identity come together? How does music and identities come together? How do music and families and peoples and all these things that we call culture come together? And how can we translate that into a visual way that allows for those identities and those rituals and practices to be expanded to other audiences that don't necessarily share those identities or don't necessarily share those rituals and practices. So I think that's what the role of an artist is. It's very complicated, but for me, when I start to look at it through those lenses, it makes it easier for me to define what my purpose is and why I'm making the work that I choose to make.
Well, thank you so much for the work that you do. This has been a lovely conversation.
Thank you, Phyllis. It really has been. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. For additional content, please visit cerebralwomen.com and be sure to follow Cerebral Women on Instagram.